how would you like a 300% ad revenue increase on your content website? Hi, this is Jared Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And in this episode, I'm speaking with Colm Dolan, who is an ex-Google employee who is now the CEO and co-founder of Publift, which helps bloggers, content site owners, and publishers simplify their ad tech, helps their clients to see an average of 55% uplift in ad revenue. In this podcast episode, Colm and I speak about what stops content site owners from making more money from their ads. What are some of the myths and the mindset things that they need to get past? We also talk about how to track user experience on your sites and ad load, and how to increase your ad load, decrease your ad load based on user experience and the data points that you need to be looking at to allow you to increase your ad revenue, but also keep your viewers happy. Colm and I also talk about what are some of the best ad placements that make good income for your blog, where they can be, how often to use them, and all that sort of stuff. We also talk about how his company Publift actually works, how they partner with bloggers, what they do, how they make money, and how they can help content site owners make a lot more money from their ads as well. Colm is a really great guy. He is just down the road from me in Australia and just is fully down to earth and really has a great service and a great product to offer with Publift.com, and we discuss a lot about that in the podcast. But if you own a content site, or you're going to own a content site, or want to own a content website, this is such a valuable episode that you don't want to miss. Enjoy. Do you want to build or grow your content website? Niche website builders have helped hundreds of people to take their content websites from a few $100s per month to over tens of thousands of dollars per month with crafted content creation, buying aged domains, and link building strategies. These strategies have helped people increase their traffic, authority, monthly earnings, and their website valuation too. Head to nicheWebsite.builders/BOB/ to get 10% off any link building or 10% more from their content creation services. That's nicheWebsite.builders/Bob/. I'll put a link in the description too. Colm, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jared.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. We got connected a while ago now, and congratulations on everything that's been going on in your life. I know you've been busy family-wise. Yeah, so looking forward to digging in now. I wanted to straight up, Publift. What is Publift for people that don't know what Publift is, your company?
Yeah, sure. So it's an ad monetization business. So basically we help publishers increase their ad revenue. So my background was Google. So I used to work in Google, started out in Dublin, and then moved over to the States and started out working AdWords side, and then worked AdSense, which is basically how publishers make money on the internet. So basically, working from home, the wife was around, so apologies for that. So basically, when I was at Google, I was giving advice to publishers on how to increase their ad revenue and giving them optimizations to do. But it was pretty frustrating because publishers couldn't implement those optimizations that suggested that I could see would make them more money. And the reason they couldn't do it was because of lack of ad expertise, or lack of developer expertise, or maybe the confidence to do it. So started Publift basically with a mandate to try and increase revenue for publishers from an agnostic standpoint. So not really from Google's standpoint, but wherever they could make money. And we approached it really with a consulting kind of head as well, and tried to be very hands-on and tried to do the work for them. And that has evolved really into being technically a lot easier for publishers to do that. So what we'll do is give publishers a line of code, and they can implement that on their website. And from there, we can do lots of different stuff like A/B test different ad locations, add different networks, add different demand partners, and basically take care of the revenue side of a content website and everything that has to do with that, because it is a very complex ecosystem. We're always trying to push to try and make more money for publishers. So that's a long-winded approach of what we do.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, a lot of people here listening looking to buy content sites and already have them and want to scale them. So they're definitely across AdSense, and there's different sorts of ways that you can have ad optimizations and different ad networks and stuff like that. So is Publift not so much an ad network, but helps publishers link up with ad networks? And what do you guys advise on placements and stuff like that, or how does that work?
Yeah, I suppose definitely not an ad network. I suppose ad networks are the evolution of networks has gone to SSPs. So some SSPs are kind of like Pubmatic, Magnite, Index Exchange, that kind of stuff. Where we differentiate from these guys is how we compare ourselves. We're a shopping comparison site, I would say. So for people in Australia, we're finder.com.au, and we'll try and get the best SSPs and best ad networks available and put them all together and try to get the best price for a publisher. So that's kind of where we differentiate to ad networks, really, Jared. What was the other part of that question?
I forget what the other part was, but I want to dive in a bit more about what you said is finder.com.au is kind of like My Deal or something like that, right? So are you saying that you work with these brands to find ads that can link in well with different types of publishers depending on what niche they're in, to help them get more premium advertising on their site?
Exactly. So if you're a publisher and you work 100% with Google or 100% with Rubicon or vice versa, you're just two partners in general, you're limiting yourself to more networks. For example, TripleLift have been an SSP that we've worked really closely over with the last 2 years, and they came from nowhere to I think being our biggest SSP apart from Google. So these are things that we'll just try out in the background and A/B test and see do they have CPMs that will help our publishers. And sometimes it can help different publishers depending on regions, depending on internet speed, anything like that. And also it's navigating the header bidding landscape. So years ago we just had a header bidding wrapper, and that was superior intelligence than Google at the time. But everything has evolved now, and everyone really has header bidding wrappers. But what we have done on the tech side of things is got more involved in terms of multivariate testing and testing the speed of our tag in different regions, how maybe a sticky ad unit compares to a static ad unit, and A/B test having 3 ad units compared to 5 ad units, what the impact viewability has on that. So our side of things has got really, really sophisticated. And I think that's why you're seeing globally more of a massive increase in publishers going from AdSense to working with a partner. And I think the evolution also is that SSPs just do not have the resources to be as hands-on as businesses like us do. We're very hands-on because each publisher is different. Each publisher has different demographics. Each publisher has, different site load speed. They've got a lot of publishers now use SPAs, which can run into difficulty with Core Web Vitals as well. So it needs a lot of hand-holding and a lot of, I suppose, tender loving care to each publisher, really. And that's something that we've really pioneered. And one thing that we're always maybe a bit different to competitors is that we really care, and we're just relentless to try and increase the revenue. And there's no hard and fast rule that says, oh, this is how you increase revenue. It's a lot of testing, a lot of iterating, a lot of figuring out what works for one publisher, and it's not what works for one publisher will work for the next.
Yeah,
and exactly. I think that's probably the key difference with ad networks SSPs compared to us. We're really hands-on, I would say.
Yeah. That's the custom bespoke approach that can allow people to get that extra level of revenue from the ads, right? Rather than the generic version. So just for people listening that don't know, SSP, what does that stand for? And SPA, what does that stand for? So many abbreviations in our in our lingo?
Yeah, so SSP is server-side platform, and SPA is single page application.
Yep.
So how single page application is a custom version of a website rather than your just custom made through one of WordPress or something like that.
Yeah, great. And so talking about, like, we know that each niche, so each demographic will respond differently to different ad placements and different types of ads. But I wanted to bring up and talk about, what have you seen some of the most, and this can be quite broad in general, but what have you found that's some of the most lucrative ad placements or type of ads on the sites?
Yeah, I think depending on user preferences, but a web interstitial has worked wonders for lots of publishers. So that's an ad unit that will appear that will take over the whole screen. The CPMs in that are really, really high. Other things really are sticky footers. So sticky footers generate a lot of revenue, and that can be on mobile or desktop. So that's just an ad unit that sticks to the bottom of the web page. Mm-hmm. And as you scroll up or down, it just stays there. So the viewability is very incredibly high. And I think the user experience is pretty decent as well. So I'd say the sticky footer is probably the best ad unit, I would say.
Yeah. And how do you guys go about the user experience versus going for more ad load on the site and, just ramping up revenue? Because there's a lot of studies and data that's been shown around, the better the user experience, the longer people are going to stay on your site, the more pages they're going to view, which means the more ads they're going to see. You can have less ads, but have a higher revenue from those ads by having good user experience. What are some of the things that you look at in terms of balancing good user experience on the site versus ad revenue or maxing ad load? I think I've asked.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's very much individual yet again, and it depends what publishers really want, and it's just monitoring the data. Just testing. Like, there is a lot of publishers that we refer to sometimes as ad jamming, just jamming as many ads in there and just seeing how it works out. Does it impact users? Does it not? Like, if publishers have user feedback forms, if they have analytics on their website to see how engagement deteriorates, or does it deteriorate from making one change or two changes like that? I think it's very much testing, because there's no hard and fast rule that says that I can just say to you, oh, well, if you put like a lot more ads on your webpage, that it is going to slow down. It probably will slow down. Does that affect users? Potentially, but I've seen where it does, and I've seen where it doesn't. So it depends what type of user you're looking at. Is it some online gaming site? Is it content? Are people going to, like, for big brands? You've got lots of big brands like the Daily Mail and the Mirror and all these kind of stuff, and they're taking ad jamming to a whole new level. But and especially I think the American publishers as well are probably. We've always, as a business, been very keen on having a good user experience for our users. Just trying to, like, we have a mission previously to make the internet a better user experience, and have highly targeted ads that make it good for a user. But I think we realize that it's wrong of us to kind of go, well, publishers, I think you should do this because this is for the good of the internet. Yeah. I think lately we've kind of said, okay, well, I think you can make this much money by having this many ads or have this ad density. Up to you if you want that. You will make more money, but it could be the detriment of your site in the longer term. It's just giving people options. And again, with doing A/B testing, we just tested on 1% of traffic and seeing if that works. And it's always good to work with publishers that are pretty savvy as well, that they can look at that 1% and figure out that did it have a detrimental effect on user experience. And then make decisions from there. I just think it's all about testing.
Yeah, it's all about the data. The data is going to help us make the better decisions, right? So digging into some of the data before we do, I'm all about longer term, better user experience. I know that it's going to compound over time. It's going to make more ad revenue with a lower ad density if you focus on user experience. But obviously, there's that happy medium there. So how do you measure, like, what are some of the things you look at? Like, if you're going to increase the ad density or the ad load, whatever you want to call it, on a content site, how do you measure how the user experience is performing? Are you looking at, the bounce rate, the time on page, and are you watching that and seeing if that's degrading, and if so, by how much? And are there some rules that you kind of, things you track and rules that you use?
I think there's no hard and fast rules there. I think bounce rates, page views per session is also another good one to just see what it's like. But it depends what type of, for content sites, I suppose it is. A lot of sites we work with are kind of, gaming sites or calculator sites or something like that, that it's people that just go on and get what they're looking for and then go off again. So the bounce rates are pretty high anyway. Yeah, like it's different strategies for, like, our strategy has always been trying to make the most money possible for publishers. But if you have, publishers sometimes that are, they might make 90% of their revenue through display ad revenue, or 10% of their revenue through display ad revenue, and 90% from selling affiliate or selling native ads directly, or sponsorships or different stuff like that. Well, that has to be taken into account of what their strategy is, and for that, then it's definitely less display ads, because it's probably going to slow down the site. It's probably going to lessen user experience. So absolutely, but again, I think there's no hard and fast rule here. This is when the publisher knows the business the best. Like, we can offer advice and tell them what work. Our mandate really is to give publishers the ammunition to be able to make that incremental ad revenue whenever they kind of want. And yes, we can. It's a consultative partnership, and it's like this. When we onboard a new client, we kind of ask them up front, do you want, how aggressive do you want your ad layout to be?
Yeah.
And it's very consultative, and you work with a range of different characters that would like that to be, yes, high or very low, and user experience is so important to us. And in that case, we will have very low density, and we will work very closely with, our developers often go on calls with them to figure out how we can reduce the speed of our tag, all this kind of custom integrations to make sure that it's a really good, they're hitting their goals. It's very much customized again to what the publisher wants, and we can tailor our service and our technology to help them in any way possible.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And so there's so many questions I have for you, but when somebody says we want a decreased, we don't want to have a high ad load, what do you then do? Do you go and try and find ads that are going to produce the same amount of revenue as what a high ad load site would, so you can still get them results? Because I'm sure you have to find the happy medium between your suggestions and their what they value to ensure that you can get them a result as a client, right?
Yeah, 100%. There's always ways and means. So it's kind of question, like, if you have a website that wants maybe 3 ad units on their site, okay, well, we can work with that. We said make sure those ad units are in high viewability locations, preferably over 90%. Let's not put any ad units below the fold that are not sticky.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure it's sticky and has those high viewability rates that will make agencies and advertisers want to buy more of that demographic, that audience, and then work at a strategy to say, if you're a content publisher, that there's a few ways you can approach it. Like, if you're hard and fast just trying to get more users and your bounce rates are high, well, then ad density could be pretty high. But if you want to create, as you said before, that loyal audience that wants to stick with you for a long while. Well, I often have discussions and say, right, well, what's the overall strategy of the business? Okay, display ads is one area, but what else are you doing? Do you want to build up sponsorships with people? Is this a specific kind of, highly lucrative kind of men's targeted fashion brand or something like that? And if it is, right, how can we work? You want to, you're making content to maybe get Rolex interested in buying ads on your site.
Yeah.
Maybe Rolex want to have video engagements. Maybe Rolex want to have a really cool custom native ad that your site becomes more and more lucrative. So then you're focusing more on a specific audience, which is great. Specific that maybe menswear audience is a great audience, or any other type of audience, small business people kind of audience, whatever it is. You kind of stick to your niche and try and really focus on that. How can you make this maybe a premium service? Maybe there's a side of this, and we've had publishers that, like Man of Many in Australia, is a really successful publisher that works with us, and they've created their own retail brand. These kind of things that are really exciting for the publisher. But I'd always be trying to get the publisher to think outside the box and not just display revenue if that's where they're going, because you see a lot of publishers, like the publishing business has struggled really, content publishers over the last 10 years. And you've seen, Mick.com, the US, BuzzFeed, all of these guys having to deviate and make other businesses. They've made kind of, I think was it Maker Drive made a car reseller kind of comparison site or something like that. You always have to be thinking outside the box. Retail is a big thing with content publishers if they can make a brand, and I encourage it. Like, who knows what's going to happen to display advertising over the years. I think it's good to diversify.
Yeah, that's right. You run some risk. I talk a lot about risk when buying businesses, and you can run a risk of having single source dependency, and then you could run a risk, on just ad revenue. And then you could run a risk of having single source dependency on maybe one ad partner who, for example, is Rolex, and they're 70 to 80% of your advertising income, and they decide we aren't going to continue running ads on the site. There's that risk there as well. If that is a thing that publishers find hard to get around in terms of diversification in income and revenue stream within ads, what are some of the other things that hold them back with getting more ad revenue or better ad revenue for their sites?
In terms of what we just talked about, the diversification, or just in terms of
terms of general in their site, like what are some of the common myths that publishers may have that are like holding them back from being able to increase their ad revenue? Is there a thing like, oh no, I want max ad load or ad density, or too not enough ad density, or wanting to only work with a certain type of brand that may do okay, but there may be another brand that is better for them? Is there any myths that could be holding them back from getting the best out of their demographic?
Well, I think it's like what we just discussed. Okay, so publishers could be looking at an article in Ad Exchange, or they could sign up for Digiday or something like that, and say Digiday have an article saying, oh, display advertising is dead, you shouldn't put any ad units below the fold, you should offer a premium level of $3 price floor on any ads above the fold. So publishers might be thinking, oh, that's what I should do for my brand, but the person writing that column on Digiday could be working for a high class content publisher, and the publisher's business may not be that high class publisher. So again, it goes back, there's no hard and fast rule for everyone in this environment. Like, it's so complex, it really really is, that I always, my life, I'm always just open to anything, and try not judge everything too much. I do think that it's becoming more and more apparent now that publishers are working with partners rather than just AdSense. And I do think there's a clear benefit of the partners, as we just discussed. And I think, look, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't think there's much difference in the technology that we're doing compared to lots of other competitors, because we've been tested numerous times, and there's 3 or 4% here and there every time, and it just goes back to service really. And most of the technology out there is open source anyway, and there's been no groundbreaking advancements, but it always comes down to analyzing the data and seeing what works well and see what doesn't work well, and service to make those decisions, because it's still a quite manual service. Like Google, with all their engineers, have every publisher I talk to hates auto ads, the AdSense auto ads feature that basically regenerates your site. And so with the resources they have, and they haven't built good enough AI for that yet, I don't think there's much hope for the smaller guys in the market like us to make something. That's not to say case that may not happen in another few years, but the feedback we always get from publishers is that, oh, we've tried out a couple of other ad companies and you guys are the best because of service. Like it basically comes down to that level of service and testing, and just being able to be nimble to get our CTO on a call with a client. And it's an advantage being small sometimes as well, that there's not it's a very flat organization that we run, so there's not the bureaucracy there as well. So we kind of, if a publisher needs help, we kind of put all resources to it at that specific time, and that's good to be able to do it from that angle.
Yeah, I think when you can't compete on product development, then service is, if you've got the best service, you're going to win for sure. Coming back to just for people that are thinking like, all right, cool, if I work with an ad partner, how does it work? Like, how do they get, like, say somebody comes to Publift and like, all right, cool, I want to work with Publift. How do you get paid? Do you have a percentage fee? Like, how does it work for most partnerships?
Yeah, we take a revenue share. So we take a revenue share, a flatline revenue share, and we have no locking contracts. It's just month to month. We onboard you, and we're pretty relentless to try and make sure that we're increasing revenue from what you've done before, or whatever the goals of the publisher is. And yeah, that's kind of how we operate. No locking contracts, and depending on size, potential, what resources we throw at publishers, just try and test everything to make sure we're making more money.
Great. And is there a minimum like traffic requirement that the site should have before they sort of go, all right, I'm going to work with a partner like yourself?
Yeah, it's probably a couple of million page views per month. I think the minimum is about $10,000 in terms of ad revenue. But again, that's as we go further down the funnel, that's probably, and we get more advanced in our onboarding and technological capabilities to do something in the self-service arena, and that's probably going to go down. But there's no like, we get a lot of leads, inbound leads per month now, and at the moment we do have to turn away quite a few leads, but we're hoping that we can build a platform to service them further down the line. So if any publishers out there want to run something by us, we're more than happy to answer any questions or see if you'd be a fit.
You just opened yourself up to a world of emails and leads. We have some strong action takers listening to this podcast, so you definitely will get some people emailing you. I want to ask, we talked about one of your results with the calculator site. Run us through, like, what were some of the things, like maybe 2 or 3 things that you did that helped you get a great result with that site, and what were the results?
Yeah, it's an Australian site, paycalculator.com.au. And so we started working with them, I think, about 2 years ago or something like that. And we this is just a side job for the publisher. He had a main job as a developer, and the story I like about that is that he gave up his day job and is now concentrating fully on paycalculator.com.au. So it's a bit of a romantic love story that I sends a shiver up my spine every time I think about it. And yeah, that's why I love working with small publishers as well, because most publishers have a passion and they give up their day job and work on their passion, and then they make a life out of that, and have ultimate freedom, which I love working with people like that and love hearing their story. So I'm happy to talk to many different publishers. I always love doing that. But yeah, I think basically Rob is a developer and he just didn't have the know-how working with AdSense. Like you work with AdSense and I worked at Google. You just don't have the resources to talk to these publishers on a daily basis, or talk to these publishers even once a year. Like a lot of publishers give out and say that they've never heard from Google.
Yeah.
And I worked there. It's not that the resources aren't just put there. It's that self-service kind of capability. Unless you're making like a lot of money per year as a publisher, you're not going to get looked upon. So when we reach out to them and just do a custom layout optimization, like adding, like looking at their website, that people go on and check how much tax they're going to pay for a year, and they stay on the site for a long time. So an ad refresh worked really well there. So just adding an ad unit refresh, increasing the viewability of the ad units by making some sticky. And it's been a constantly evolved partnership with Pay Calculator. Maybe we brought them on 2 years ago and increased their revenue by, I think it was over 300%. It was something really big. But again, it's been, every 6 months or thereabout, or when we have new products, we roll them out on this site, and we constantly gain a bit more on that 300%. So I would say that the biggest thing there was probably the ad unit refresh, and looking at the amount of time a user spends on their site.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to see that just by having the right eyes, such as you guys, Publift, and then the right steps, actionable steps, with the availability of resources you can have in reaching out to those advertisers to be able to, it seems like so simple for a publisher to do themselves, but having the strategy and having the resources is not always something that they have that can get them to that 300% increase in ad revenue, right? That's where most people are lacking.
Yeah, and I think it's very hard for publishers as well, because they get contacted every week by lots of different businesses like us saying, we can increase your revenue, just do this, just do that. And the biggest thing is just trust, because we've come across so many publishers in the past that have got screwed over by businesses like us. We've got probably a bad reputation because people haven't paid on time, people haven't said that haven't increased revenue, and then just you don't hear from them. Like, you hear really bad stories, and I can understand why a publisher would not want to work with some partners, or any partner in general. And when you have a big brand like Google, you're going to get paid every 30 days. Like, your revenue mightn't be as good as working with a partner, but Google aren't going to go bust. So that's a big thing for us, and something that we've had to overcome, really, especially when we're talking to, like, most of our new sales come from the US and Europe, and we've got we're building out a team in Europe, and we've got someone there the last year or so. But again, it's like you're this business from Australia, and it's gone quite global over the last 2 years. And one of the things that we always do is ensure that we never miss a payment, and we have payment terms, and we normally get there like a couple of days beforehand, just to ensure that they feel safe and secure. And that's one of the mandates. That's one of the 5 things we try and give to publishers. 1 is increasing revenue, but 2 is making them feel safe and secure, because it's a lonely world as a publisher, very lonely world. Like, a lot of publishers we work with are probably 1 or 2 man bands, and they don't know who to trust. It's kind of similar starting your own business, like my journey is on. It can be a lonely enough place when you're running your own business, and then you have a bit of success, and then people kind of piggyback on you and kind of say, oh, you should do this and should do that, and you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then it's the same for publishers. They're kind of like, oh, well, talking to this person, and they seemed really genuine and trustworthy, and then they get messed around. So even if, and we've had situations where stuff hasn't worked out for publishers in the past with us before, but one thing we always do is kind of, if they've lost money for one reason or another, we'll pay them back, and we'll speak with them and hold their hand. And like, I've had a few situations where publishers have kind of left us where they kind of go, well, thank you very much. It's never been a sour kind of, oh, well, Publish screwed us over. That's not the way we operate, because it's just, I think fundamentally the most important thing is business is just being a morally good people, and being open and transparent. And yes, of course, we've made mistakes, and lots of times, and we'll continue to make mistakes. But if we do, we'll give money back to the publisher, or whatever the mistake is made, we'll tell them up front. And there's plenty of situations where we didn't have to do that, but it's always inbuilt into me from my background, my parents, and it's the same thing with everyone in the business. It's just fundamental to building that trust with a publisher.
I agree. And, reputation is far more important than money. And also just being a good person is far more important than money and doing the right thing. I really resonate with you around when you first, start getting some success as a publisher, or when you first start your own business, not knowing what to do, not knowing who to trust. That's where we fit in as well with our business, is helping people buy businesses, and really, like, don't just try and do it yourself. Lean on the right people for support. Without, people don't get results if they have unanswered questions, really, and don't know what to do, because they get stuck and they do nothing. So I think you guys really do that well, which I think we've lent into that a lot with our business too. But I wanted to ask, where can people go away and find more about Publift and you? And if they want to have a chat with you guys or ask questions, where should they go?
Yeah, sure. Our website is probably the best resource, publift.com. And we've got a lot of resources there in terms of the technology that we've built out recently. I think in the last 6 months, we've really made a lot of advancements in our tech, so publishers can see what we do there. You can also see, like, a lot of publishers that sign will look everywhere in the website to find out what type of business we are. I think it's important to look into, different sections about us, how the journey started. I've got a couple of other podcasts on there where I talk about life and philosophy and getting to know me. And I think that's really important for any publisher, just to get to know what kind of people we are, because we have a really, really, really strong culture at Publift. And it's from myself and Tobin, my co-founder, as well. And it's not hard. It's just being sound and a good person and just resonating that down. Business is not hard to me. It's just like just being a solid dude. So that's reiterated right through the business, and we have fun and don't take ourselves too seriously. And that's why I think publishers like working with us.
So many things that I resonate with there. Thank you so much, guys. Check that out. There'll be links in the show notes. Thank you for coming on, Com. Really greatly appreciate having you here. We could probably dive in more, and maybe we have another podcast coming up in the future. So thanks for coming on.
Sure, Jared, anytime. And I'll call up the Gold Coast and visit you in person.
Yeah, let's do that for sure. Everybody that is listening, thank you for listening as well. If you own a content site, make sure you took notes. If not, listen to this again. If you know somebody that wants to buy a content site or owns a content site, this is a hugely valuable podcast to send. So please feel free to share this with anybody that is in that bracket. Thanks for listening. Speak to you guys soon. Bye.
Hey YouTube watcher, if you thought that video was good, you should check out this video here on the 2 best types of websites beginners should buy. Or check out my playlist on how I made my first 100K from buying websites and how to do due diligence. Check it out. It's an awesome playlist. You'll enjoy it.